thing again. I turned you on before I had my earplugs in. Welcome back. I'm Tina Monday, and I'm going to read to you. And we are going to get started with book 2 of The Sun Also Rises. And I promise this will stop jostling as soon as I'm in place and settled for my reading. You're on a pillow on my bed on a stand while I read to you, because I read when I'm not up to gaming, and that is when my joints need some extra rest. So I am propped up on a wall of pillows and taking a gravity break, and we are going to read chapter 8. And Hemingway is really weird about gender, so I'm wearing my magic unicorn hat. And if you don't get how those two things relate, that's fine. Enjoy the book and the hat. As usual, if you like listening to how I read, and you want to help me keep the lights on through this project, I have a couple links below. One lets you buy my book, the other lets you support this exact project directly. If you donate to this project, the first priority is my medical bills, and the second priority is new equipment. Alright, that's enough intro time. Let's read. The Sun Also Rises, Chapter 8. I did not see Brett again until she came back from San Sebastian. One card came from her there. It had a picture of the concha, and she said, "Darling, very quiet and healthy. Love to all the chaps, Brett." Nor did I see Robert Cohn again. I heard Francis had left for England, and I had a note from Cohn saying he was going out in the country for a couple of weeks. He did not know where, but that he wanted to hold me to the fishing trip in Spain we had talked about last winter. I could reach him always, he wrote, through his bankers. Brett was gone. I was not bothered by Cohn's troubles. I rather enjoyed not having to play tennis. There was plenty of work to do. I often went to the races, dined with friends, and put in some extra time at the office getting things ahead so I could leave it in charge of my secretary when Bill Gorton and I should shove off to Spain the end of June. Bill Gorton arrived, put up a couple of days at the flat, and went off to Vienna. He was very cheerful and said the States were wonderful. New York was wonderful. There had been a grand theatrical season and a whole crop of great young light heavyweights. Any one of them was a good prospect to grow up, put on weight, and trim Dempsey. Bill was very happy. He had made a lot of money on his last book and was going to make a lot more. We had a good time while he was in Paris, and then he went off to Vienna. He was coming back in 3 weeks, and we would leave for Spain to get in some fishing and go to the fiesta at Pamplona. He wrote that Vienna was wonderful, then a card from Budapest. "Jake, Budapest is wonderful." Then I got a wire. Back on Monday. Monday evening, he turned up at the flat. I heard his taxi stop and went to the window and called to him. He waved and started upstairs carrying his bags. I met him on the stairs and took one of the bags. "Well," I said, "I hear you had a wonderful trip." "Wonderful," he said. "Budapest is absolutely wonderful." "How about Vienna?" "Not so good, Jake, not so good. It seemed better than it was." "How do you mean?" "I was getting glasses and a siphon." "Tight, Jake." "I was tight." "That's strange. Better have a drink." Bill rubbed his forehead. "Remarkable thing," he said. "Don't know how it happened. Suddenly it happened." "Last long?" 4 days, Jake. Lasted just 4 days." "Where did you go?" "Don't remember." "Wrote you a postcard. Remembered that perfectly." "Do anything else?" "Not so sure. Possible." "Go on. Tell me about it." Can't remember. Tell you anything I could remember. Go on. Take that drink and remember. Might remember a little, Bill said. Remember something about a prize fight. Enormous Vienna prize fight. Had a black guy in it. Remember that guy perfectly. Go on. Wonderful. Looked like tiger flowers, only 4 times as big. All of a sudden, everybody started to throw things. Not me. The guide just knocked a local boy down. He put up his glove, wanted to make a speech, awful noble looking. He started to make a speech. Then the local white boy hit him. Knocked the white boy cold. Then everybody commenced to throw chairs. He went home with us in our car. Couldn't get his clothes. Wore my coat. Remember the whole thing now. Big sporting evening. What happened? Loaned the guy some clothes. Went around with him to try and get his money. Claimed he owed them money on account of wrecking the hall. Wonder who translated. Was it me? Probably wasn't you. You're right. Wasn't me at all. Was another fellow. Think we called him the local Harvard man. I remember him now, studying music. How'd you come out? Not so good, Jake. Injustice everywhere. Promoter claims a guy promised the local boy he'd stay. Claimed the guy violated the contract. Can't knock out Vienna boy in Vienna. My God, Mr. Gorton, said the guy. I didn't do anything in there for 40 minutes but try and let him stay. That white boy must have ruptured himself swinging at me. I never did hit him. Did you get any money? No money, Jake. All we could get was the guy's clothes. Somebody took his watch, too. Splendid contender. Big mistake to have come to Vienna, though. Not so good, Jake. Not so good. What became of the guy? Went back to Cologne. Lives there. Married. Got a family. Going to write me a letter and send me the money I loaned him. Wonderful man. Hope I gave him the right address. You probably did. Well, anyway, let's eat, said Bill. Unless you want me to tell you some more travel stories. Go on. Let's eat. We went downstairs and onto the Boulevard Saint-Michel in the warm June evening. Where will we go? Want to eat on the island? Sure. We walked down the boulevard. At the juncture of the Rue d'Enfer Rochereau with the boulevard is a statue of 2 men in flowing robes. I know who they are. Bill eyed the monument. Gentlemen who invented pharmacy. Don't try and fool me on Paris. We went on. Here's a taxidermist, Bill said. Want to buy anything? Nice stuffed dog? Come on, I said. You're pie-eyed. Pretty nice stuffed dogs, Bill said. Certainly brighten up your flat. Come on. Just one stuffed dog. I can take him or leave him alone. But listen, Jake. Just one stuffed dog. Come on. Mean everything in the world to you after you bought it. Simple exchange of values. You give them money. They give you a stuffed dog. We'll get one on the way back. All right. Have it your own way. Road to hell paved with unbought stuffed dogs. Not my fault. We went on. How'd you feel that way about dogs so sudden? Always felt that way about dogs. Always been a great lover of stuffed animals. We stopped and had a drink. Certainly like to drink, Bill said. You ought to try some, Jake. You're about 154 ahead of me. Ought not to daunt you. Never be daunted. Secret of my success. Never been daunted. Never been daunted in public. What were you drinking? Stopped at the Crillon. George made me a couple of Jack Roses. George is a great man. Knows the secret of his success. Never been daunted. You'll be daunted soon after about 3 more promenades. Not in public. If I begin to feel daunted, I'll go off by myself. I'm like a cat that way. When did you see Harvey Stone? At the Crillon. Harvey was just a little daunted. Hadn't eaten for 3 days. Doesn't eat anymore. Just goes off like a cat. Pretty sad. He's all right. Splendid. Wish he wouldn't keep going off like a cat, though. Makes me nervous. What'll we do tonight? Jake asked. Doesn't make any difference. Only let's not get daunted. Suppose they got any hard-boiled eggs here? If they had hard-boiled eggs here, we wouldn't have to go all the way down to the island to eat. Nix, I said. We're going to have a regular meal. Just a suggestion, said Bill. Want to start now? Come on. We started on again down the boulevard. A horse cab passed us. Bill looked at it. See that horse cab? Going to have that horse cab stuffed for you for Christmas. Going to give all my friends stuffed animals. I'm a nature writer. A taxi passed. Someone in it waved, then banged for the driver to stop. The taxi backed up to the curb. In it was Brett. Beautiful lady, said Bill. Going to kidnap us. Hello, Brett said. Hello. This is Bill Gordon, Lady Ashley. Brett smiled at Bill. I say I'm just back. Haven't bathed even. Michael comes in tonight. Good. Come on and eat with us. We'll all go to meet him. I must clean myself. Oh, Rock, come on. Must bathe. He doesn't get in till 9. Come and have a drink then, before you bathe. Might do that. No, you're not talking, Rock. We got in the taxi. The driver looked around. Stop at the nearest bistro, I said. We might as well go to the Closerie, Brett said. I can't drink these rotten brandies. Closerie de la Lasse. Brett turned to Bill. Have you been in this pestilential city long? Just got in today from Budapest. How was Budapest? Wonderful. Budapest was wonderful. Ask him about Vienna. Vienna, said Bill, is a strange city. Very much like Paris. Brett smiled at him, winking the corners of her eyes. Exactly, Bill said. Very much like Paris at the moment. You have a good start. Sitting out on the terraces of the Lasse, Brett ordered a whiskey and soda. I took one too, and Bill took another Pernod. How are you, Jake? Great, I said. I've had a good time. Brett looked at me. I was a fool to go away, she said. I wasn't asked to leave Paris. Did you have a good time? Oh, all right. Interesting. Not frightfully amusing. See anybody? No, hardly anybody. I never went out. Did you swim? No, didn't do a thing. Sounds like Vienna, Bill said. Brett wrinkled up the corners of her eyes at him. So that's the way it was in Vienna. It was like everything in Vienna. Brett smiled at him again. You've a nice friend, Jake. He's all right, I said. He's a taxidermist. That was in another country, Bill said. And besides, all the animals were dead. One more, Brett said. And I must run. Do send a waiter for a taxi. There's a line of them, right out in front. Good. We had the drink and put Brett into her taxi. Mind you're at the Select around 10. Make him come. Michael will be there. We'll be there, Bill said. The taxi started. and Brett waved. "Quite a girl," Bill said. "She's damn nice. Who's Michael?" "The man she's going to marry." "Well, well," Bill said. "That's always just the stage I meet anybody. What'll I send them? Think they'll like a couple of stuffed racehorses?" "We better eat." "Is she really Lady something or other?" Bill asked in the taxi on our way down to the Isle St. Louis. "Oh, yes. In the stud book and everything." "Well, well." We ate dinner at Madame Lecomte's restaurant on the far side of the island. It was crowded with Americans, and we had to stand up and wait for a place. Someone had put it in the American Women's Club list as a quaint restaurant on the Paris Quai, as yet untouched by Americans, so we had to wait 45 minutes for a table. Bill had eaten at the restaurant in 1918, right after the armistice, and Madame Lecomte made a great fuss over seeing him again. "Doesn't get us a table, though," Bill said. "Grand woman, though." We had a good meal. A roast chicken, new green beans, mashed potatoes, a salad, some apple pie, and cheese. "You've got the world here all right," Bill said to Madame Lecomte. She raised her hand. "Oh, my God. You'll be rich." "I hope so." After the coffee and a fine, we got the bill, chalked up the same as ever on a slate that was doubtless one of the quaint features, paid it, shook hands, and went out. "You never come here any more, Monsieur Bonds," Madame Lecomte said. "Too many compatriots. Come at lunchtime. It's not crowded then." "Good. I'll be down soon." We walked along under the trees that grew out over the river on the Quai d'Orléans side of the island. Across the river were the broken walls of old houses that were being torn down. They were going to cut a street through. They would, Bill said. We walked down and circled the island. The river was dark, and a bateau mouche went by, all bright with lights, going fast and quiet up and out of sight under the bridge. Down the river was the Notre Dame, squatting against the night sky. We crossed the left bank of the Seine by the wooden footbridge from the Quai de Bethune, and stopped on the bridge and looked down the river at Notre Dame. Standing on the bridge, the island looked dark. The houses were high against the sky, and the trees were shadows. "It's pretty grand," Bill said. "God, I'd love to get back." We leaned on the wooden rail of the bridge and looked up the river to the lights of the big bridges. Below, the water was smooth and black. It made no sound against the piles of the bridge. A man and a girl passed us. They were walking with their arms around each other. We crossed the bridge and walked up the Rue de Cardinal Lemon. It was a steep walking, and we went all the way up to the Place Contrescarpe. The arc light shone through the leaves of the trees in the square, and underneath the trees was an S-bus ready to start. Music came out through the door of the Negre Joyeux. Through the window of the Café aux Amateurs, I saw the long zinc bar. Outside, on the terrace, working people were drinking. In the open kitchen of the amateurs, a girl was cooking potato chips in oil. There was an iron pot of stew. The girl ladled some onto a plate for an old man who stood holding a bottle of red wine in one hand. "Want to have a drink?" "No," said Bill. "I don't need it." We turned to the right off the Place Contrescarpe, walking along smooth, narrow streets with high old houses on both sides. Some of the houses jutted out toward the street. Others were cut back. We came out onto the Rue de Paul Lafer and followed along until it brought us to the rigid north and south of the Rue Saint-Jacques, and then walked south past Val de Grace, set back behind the courtyard and the iron fence to the Boulevard du Port Royal. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "Go up to the cafe and see Brett and Mike." "Why not?" We walked along Port Royal until it became Montparnasse, and then on past the Lilas, Levine's, and all the little cafes, de Moy's, across the street to the Rotonde, past its lights and tables to the Select. Michael came towards us from the tables. He was tanned and healthy looking. "Hello, Jake. Hello, hello. How are you, old lad?" "You look very fit, Mike." "Oh, I am. I am frightfully fit. I've done nothing but walk all day long. One drink a day with my mother at tea." Bill had long gone to the bar. He was standing, talking with Brett, who was sitting on a high stool, her legs crossed. She had no stockings on. "It's good to see you, Jake," Michael said. "I'm a little tight, you know. Amazing, isn't it? Did you see my nose?" There's a patch of dried blood on the bridge of his nose. "An old lady's bags did that," Mike said. "I reached up to help her with them, and they fell on me." Brett gestured at him from the bar with her cigarette holder and wrinkled the corners of her eyes. "An old lady," said Mike. "Her bags fell on me. Let's go in and see Brett. I say, she is a piece. You are a lovely lady, Brett. Where did you get that hat?" "Chap bought it for me. Don't you like it?" "It's a dreadful hat. Do get a good hat." "We've so much money now," Brett said. "I say, haven't you met Bill yet? You're a lovely host, Jake." She turned to Mike. "This is Bill Gordon. This drunkard is Mike Campbell. Mr. Campbell is an undischarged bankrupt." "Aren't I, though? You know, I met my ex-partner yesterday in London. Chap who did me in." "What did he say?" "Bought me a drink. Thought I might as well take it. I say, Brett, you are a lovely piece. Don't you think she's beautiful?" "Beautiful? With this nose?" "It's a lovely nose. Go on. Point it at me. Isn't she a lovely piece?" "Couldn't we have kept the man in Scotland? I say, Brett, let's turn in early." "Don't be indecent, Michael. Remember, there's ladies in this bar." "Isn't she a lovely piece? Don't you think so, Jake?" "There's a fight tonight," Bill said. "Like to go?" "Fight?" said Mike. "Who's fighting?" "Ledoux and somebody." "He's very good, Ledoux," Mike said. "I'd like to see it, rather." He was making an effort to pull himself together. "But I can't go. I had a date with this thing here. I say, Brett, do get a new hat." Brett pulled the felt hat down far over one eye and smiled out from under it. "You two run along to the fight. I'll have to be taking Mr. Campbell home directly." "I'm not tight," Mike said. "Perhaps just a little. I say, Brett, you are a lovely piece." "Let's go down to the fight," Brett said. "Mr. Campbell's getting difficult. What are these outbursts of affection, Michael?" "I say you are a lovely piece." We said good night. "I'm sorry I can't go," Mike said. Brett laughed. I looked back from the door. Mike had one hand on the bar and was leaning toward Brett, talking. Brett was looking at him quite coolly, but the corners of her eyes were smiling. Outside on the pavement, I said, "Do you want to go to the fight?" "Sure," Bill said. "If we don't have to walk." Mike was pretty excited about his girlfriend, I said in a taxi. "Well," Bill said, You can't blame him such a hell of a lot. That brings us to the end of chapter 8. And we're still a little shy of a half hour, so I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 9 to you. Once again, if you've been enjoying my presentation. Alright, let's keep going. Chapter 9. The Ladeau Kid Francis fight was the night of the 20th of June. It was a good fight. The morning after the fight, I had a letter from Robert Cohn, written from Henday. He was having a very quiet time, he said, bathing, playing some golf and much bridge. Henday had a splendid beach, but he was anxious to start the fishing trip. When would I be down? If I would buy him a double-tapered line, he would pay me when I came down. That same morning, I wrote Cohn from the office that Bill and I would leave Paris on the 25th unless I wired him otherwise, and would meet him at Bayonne, where we would get a bus over the mountains to Pamplona. The same evening, about 7 o'clock, I stopped in at the Select to see Michael and Brett. They were not there, and I went over to the Dingo. They were inside, sitting at the bar. "Hello, darling," Brett put out her hand. "Hello, Jake," Mike said. "I understand it was tight last night." "Weren't you, though?" Brett said. "Disgraceful business." "Look," said Mike. "When do you go down to Spain? Would you mind if we came down with you?" "It would be grand." "You wouldn't mind, really? I've been at Pamplona, you know. Brett's mad to go. You're sure we wouldn't just be a bloody nuisance? Now don't talk like a fool." "I'm a little tight, you know. I wouldn't ask you this if I weren't. You're sure you don't mind?" "Oh, shut up, Michael," Brett said. "How can the man say he'd mind now? I'll ask him later." "Well, you don't mind, do you?" "Don't ask that again unless you want to make me sore. Bill and I go down on the morning of the 25th. "By the way, where is Bill?" Brett asked. "He's out at Chantilly dining with some people." "He's a good chap." "Splendid chap," said Mike. "He is, you know." "Whew, Mike's a bore and a drunk." "I don't remember him," Brett said. "I do. I remember him perfectly. Look, Jake, we'll come down the night of the 25th. Brett can't get up in the morning." "Indeed not." "If our money comes, and you're sure you don't mind." "It will come all right. I'll see to that. Tell me what tackle to send for." "Get 2 or 3 rods with reels and lines and some flies." "I won't fish," Brett put in. "Get 2 rods then, and Bill won't have to buy one." "Right," said Mike. "I'll send a wire to the keeper." "Won't it be splendid?" Brett said. "Spain. We will have fun." "The 25th, when is that?" "Saturday." "We will have to get ready." "I say," said Mike, "I'm going to the barber's." "I must bathe," said Brett. "Walk up to the hotel with me, Jake. Be a good chap." "We've got the loveliest hotel," Mike said. "I think it's a brothel." We left our bags here at the Dingo when we got in, and they asked us this hotel if we wanted a room for the afternoon only. Seemed frightfully pleased we were going to stay all night. "I believe it's a brothel," Mike said, "and I should know." "Oh, shut it and go get your hair cut." Mike went out. Brett and I sat at the bar. "Have another?" "Might." "I needed that," Brett said. We walked up the Rue de l'Ombre. "I haven't seen you since I've been back," Brett said. "No." "How are you, Jake?" "Fine." Brett looked at me. "I say," she said, "is Robert Cohn going on this trip?" "Yes. Why?" "Don't you think it will be a bit rough on him?" "Why should it?" "Who did you think I went down to San Sebastian with?" "Congratulations," I said. We walked along. "What did you say that for?" "I don't know. What would you like me to say?" We walked along and turned a corner. He behaved rather well, too. He gets a little dull. Does he? I rather thought it would be good for him. You might take up social service. Don't be nasty now. I won't. Didn't you really know? No, I said. I guess I didn't think about it. You think it will be too rough on him? That's up to him, I said. Tell him you're coming. He can always not come. I'll write him and give him a chance to pull out of it. I did not see Brett again until the night of the 24th of June. Did you hear from Cone? Rather. He's keen about it. My God, I thought it was rather odd myself. Says he can't wait to see me. Does he think you're coming alone? No, I told him we were all coming down together, Michael and all. He's wonderful, isn't he? They expected their money the next day. We arranged to meet at Pamplona. They would go directly to San Sebastian and take the train from there. We would all meet at the Montoya in Pamplona. If they did not turn up on Monday at the latest, we would go on ahead up to Burget in the mountains to start fishing. There was a bus to Burget. I wrote out an itinerary so they could follow us. Bill and I took the morning train from the Gare d'Orsay. It was a lovely day, not too hot, and the country was beautiful from the start. We went back into the diner and had breakfast. Leaving the dining car, I asked the conductor for tickets for the first service. Nothing until the 5th. What's this? There were never more than 2 servings of lunch on that train, and always plenty of places for both of them. They're all reserved, the dining car conductor said. There will be a 5th service at 3:30. This is serious, I said to Bill. Give him 10 francs. Here, I said, we want to eat in the first service. The conductor put the 10 francs in his pocket. Thank you, he said. I would advise you gentlemen to get some sandwiches. All the places for the first 4 services were reserved at the office of the company. You'll go a long way, brother, Bill said to him in English. I suppose if I'd given you 5 francs, you would have advised us to jump off the train. Comment? Go to hell, said Bill. Get the sandwiches made and a bottle of wine. You tell him, Jake. And send it up to the next car. I described where we were. In our compartment were a man and his wife and their young son. I suppose you're Americans, aren't you? The man asked. Having a good trip. Wonderful, said Bill. That's what you want to do. Travel while you're young. Mother and I always wanted to get over, but we had to wait a while. You could have come over 10 years ago if you'd wanted to, the wife said. What you always said was, see America first. I will say we've seen a good deal. Take it one way and another. Say, there's plenty of Americans on this train, the husband said. They've got 7 cars of them from Dayton, Ohio. They've been on a pilgrimage to Rome, and now they're going down to Biarritz and Lourdes. So that's what they are. Pilgrims. Goddamn Puritans, Bill said. What part of the States you boys from? Kansas City, I said. He's from Chicago. You both going to Biarritz? No, we're going fishing in Spain. Well, I never cared for it myself. There's plenty that do come where I come from, though. We got some of the best fishing in the state of Montana. I've been out with the boys, but I never cared for it any. Mighty little fishing you did on them trips, his wife said. He winked at us. You know how the ladies are. If there's a jug goes along, or a case of beer, they'll think it's hell and damnation. That's the way men are, his wife said to us. She smoothed her comfortable lap. I voted against prohibition to please him, and because I like a little beer in the house. And then he talks that way. It's a wonder they ever find anyone to marry them. Say, said Bill, do you know that gang of Pilgrim Fathers have cornered the dining car until 3:30 this afternoon? How do you mean? They can't do a thing like that. You try and get seats. Well, Mother, it looks as though we better go back and get another breakfast. She stood up and straightened her dress. Will you boys keep an eye on our things? Come, Hubert. The all three went up to the wagon restaurant. A little while after they were gone, a steward went through announcing the first service, and pilgrims, with their priests, commenced filing down the corridor. Our friend and his family did not come back. A waiter passed in the corridor with our sandwiches and the bottle of Chablis, and we called him in. You're going to work today, I said. He nodded his head. They start now, at 10:30. When do we eat? When do I eat? He left 2 glasses for the bottle, and we paid him for the sandwiches and tipped him. I'll get the plates, he said, or bring them with you. We ate the sandwiches and drank the Chablis and watched the country out of the window. The grain was just beginning to ripen, and the fields were full of poppies. The pasture land was green, and there were fine trees and sometimes big rivers and chateaux off in the trees. At Tours we got off and bought another bottle of wine. And when we got back in the compartment, the gentleman from Montana and his wife and son Hubert were sitting comfortably. Is there good swimming in Biarritz? Asked Hubert. The boy's just crazy till he can get in the water, his mother said. It's pretty hard on youngsters traveling. There's good swimming, I said, but it's dangerous when it's rough. Did you get a meal? Bill asked. We sure did. We sat right there when they started to come in, and they must have just thought we were in the party. One of the waiters said something to us in French, and then they just sent 3 of them back. They thought we were snappers, all right, the man said. It certainly shows you the power of the Catholic Church. It's a pity you boys ain't Catholics. You could get a meal then, all right. I am, I said. That's what makes me so sore. Finally, at 4:15, we had lunch. Bill had been rather difficult at the last. He buttonholed a priest who was coming back with one of the returning streams of pilgrims. When do us Protestants get a chance to eat, Father? I don't know anything about it. Haven't you got tickets? It's enough to make a man join the clan, Bill said. The priest looked back at him. Inside the dining car, the waiters served the 5th successive table d'hote meal. The waiter who served us was soaked through. His white jacket was purple under the arms. He must drink a lot of wine, or wear purple undershirts. Let's ask him. No, he's too tired. The train stopped for a half an hour at Bordeaux, and we went out through the station for a little walk. There was not time to get into the town. Afterward, we passed through the lawns and watched as the sun set. There were wide fire gaps cut through the pines, and you could look up them like avenues and see wooded hills way off. About 7:30 we had dinner and watched the country through the open window in the diner. It was all sandy pine country, full of heather. There were little clearings with houses in them, and once in a while we passed a sawmill. It got dark, and we could feel the country hot and sandy and dark outside of the window. And about 9 o'clock we got into Bayonne. The man and his wife and Hubert all shook hands with us. They were going on to La Négresse to change for Biarritz. Well, I hope you have lots of luck, he said. Be careful about those bullfights. Maybe we'll see you at Biarritz, Hubert said. We got off with our bags and rod cases and passed through the dark station and out to the lights and the line of cabs and hotel buses. There, standing with the hotel runners, was Robert Cohn. He did not see us at first. Then he started forward. Hello, Jake. Have a good trip? Fine, I said. This is Bill Grundy. How are you? Come on, said Robert. I've got a cab. He was a little nearsighted. I'd never noticed it before. He was looking at Bill, trying to make him out. He was shy, too. We'll go up to my hotel. It's all right. It's quite nice. We got into the cab, and the cabman put the bags up on the seat beside him and climbed up and cracked his whip, and we drove out over the dark bridge and into the town. I'm awfully glad to meet you, Robert said to Bill. I've heard so much about you from Jake and read your books. Did you get my line, Jake? The cab stopped in front of the hotel, and we all got out and went in. It was a nice hotel, and the people at the desk were very cheerful, and we each had a good small room. And that brings us to the end of chapter 9. I'm going to call that good for tonight. It's been about 40 minutes. My voice is getting a little bit tired, and it's been fun. If you've enjoyed me reading and you want to hear the book from the beginning, there's a playlist. I also have recently read some Oscar Wilde and some Christina Rossetti, and you can find that on my channel in my playlists and whatnot. And you can find links to buy my book or support this project directly down in the description. Thanks for listening. I'll be back with a fifth night of reading. We're almost halfway through the book. It's just a matter of how well I feel. I've been having some symptoms that are either a new round of COVID or long COVID rearing its ugly head. So things have been a little harder than usual. But I'm hoping to be back to nightly streams again soon. And until then, I'll do as much as I can. Alright, take care.